coming, but you don't yet know what all's on student-led conferences, like what you'll need. So, thank you. Yeah, so do not throw those away. Do not get rid of those. We keep those for right now until that time, which is like mid-year. So today, first thing we want to talk about, there was a typo on number 55 of the 222 homework. So if you get out your 222 homework real quick, this should have been 1/5. Now, if you guessed that it was supposed to be 15% and you solved the problem that way, that's fine. Leave your work that way. Your answer being right or wrong doesn't matter that much. But I wanted to let you guys know what it is. And I did make the change on my sheet now, so in the future, sorry. Any other typos that were noticed? A couple people sent me the one about 55, so thank you very much. If we look at those answers, now if we look at those answers, real quick here, these are just some sample expressions of what they were asking us to do. Please, so you should have 222 out. If you have any questions or confusion, if you're like totally confident and you're like, yeah, I got it, I don't even need to check my answers, that's a choice you're making. And 53, we're drawing number line models. If I did not say this in this class, sorry, I try to remember like what I've said in which class. There are two ways you can draw the number line models. You can start at 0, go down or up to the first number they give you, and then move from there. Or these models that they're showing in the answer key are just starting at the first value they give you and moving based off what they tell us. I saw some mistakes on 54 just in talking with people. Guys, it's hard to see because your calculator doesn't give you that much of the number, but this is repeating. In part C, that was 4 sevenths, I want to say. I know it was sevenths. Yeah. Any division by 7 gives you a repeating set. We looked at those in class. They're kind of like that cool relationship with 14, 28, 57. So look there, you can see it's 57, 14, 28. That's going to start over again. That pattern will start over again and repeat itself. And then in 55, if you had 1/5, if you had the fraction checked to the ebook or checked to your actual book to see what the real thing is. By the way, if you ever think I've made a typo, just check the actual book. Because when I'm bringing stuff over from the ebook, that's when things get goofed up. It's me, right? So there won't be an issue in the book. If you actually look in the book, it should be right. Any questions on 222 aside from when are we dancing? Get it? 22 dancing. It's bad. Don't worry.
Where's the last button?
Yeah, right. It's too hard to get to right now. All right, so if you read our start slide, you have come up and grabbed some of these plus minus tiles. We might need to share some of these. We don't have enough to get everywhere, so people might need to split a handful. And you're going to want a partner. Either 2 or 3, doesn't matter, but maybe we should ship you since Mary isn't here. Or you can just like turn around and talk with Nikki and Toby if you want, so that you can stay where you are. So what we're going to do today is, okay, maybe I should have waited. Maybe that's on me. What we're going to do today is compare integer and rational values. But we're going to start with just integer values because we want to start like low level and it's Monday, right? And a Monday morning. So we're going to start off easy. So in that bag, if you observe in there, there are pluses and there are minuses. Now, some of you who are like, you don't want to work very hard, your wheels are already turning, listen to what we're going to do. Your task is going to be as difficult as you determine. So, let's say Dave and I are playing this game together. And, yeah, everything's a game. Life is a game. I'm going to reach into the bag, pull out a handful of tiles, right, like a sprinkle of tiles, and put them on my desk in front of me. Now, what would make sense to do with these tiles to make them easier to work with? Sort them, right? So I'm then going to sort my positives versus my negatives. These are addition signs. Thank you for asking. And then I'm going to write out what I have. right? So here, got 5, and then another 5. And you can count one by one, or you can make sets of 5 like me, or whatever you want to do. 26. And, so plus, right, because we're not taking away here. We're observing what do I have in total. I have 26 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus 9 negatives. So I would write 26 plus, in parentheses, negative 9. Then I figure out what's my total. Well, I can make 0 pairs, right? So if I make all these 0 pairs and take away some of those pluses to match up with my minuses, and if we zoom out, we can see what I've done here. I've got zeros over there. One more. Now, what do I have left? Whoever has the most wins. So you have no idea what you're pulling when you claw machine pick up out of the bag. But the bigger handful you take, the more work you have to do, right? So go ahead and play around with that right now. You are just pulling a bag or a handful out of your bag, put them on your desk, figure out what you have, compare with your neighbors. Remember, we should technically be talking in plus negatives. Oh, yeah. And this many negative tiles. Yeah, and then if you make all your 0 pairs, you're going to end up with 1 negative. You don't have to now. Not if you already know. Not if you can do the math. Not if you haven't done this yet. Not if you haven't written on craft paper and I see way too many blue sheets out. You don't even have a header, Toby. What is going on over here? You're on like corny joke probation until you can get your math figured out. Alright, all of this is not going to stay here, Toby. But I'm sticking this right now for the moment before you leave this space. You're going to fix that. Get on board with us, man. Hey, Nikki, you're equally at fault because he's your partner and you're sitting there off task together, right? You don't have a header on your paper either.
Are there like an even amount of like pluses and minuses? Yeah, my favorite.
Is there an even amount of like the same amount, you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think happens if there's an equal amount of pluses and minuses?
Then it would be like, oh, that's the thing. It's 0 if they all cancel each other out.
Ah, it's 0 if they all cancel each other out.
I know, but like, I have 20. Are there an even amount in the bag with full amount? I'd be like,
I mean, you have a chance of that happening. Please put your name on this blue sheet as it comes around to you. You can keep playing if you want. You can do another round. Clear your desk. I'm having to use a lot of self-control to not steal some of the food that all of you are eating this morning. That popcorn is the best. The cheese and caramel is going to Chicago mix. Toby, put your name on that paper. Turn yourself around.
okay.
I need the header.
One of them, and then give one to Nikki. All right. So with that question that was just brought up, what if we have the same amount of pluses and minuses. It's 0. So look real quick at your blue sheet or up on the screen. What we call this in mathematics is additive inverses, and or this math box also includes the additive identity, but give that a pause for a moment. Additive inverses. So skip to this section. I don't know why they put them in this order when this came first. Additive inverses are any time we have opposite quantities. So a lot of us were realizing, like Lily said, well, I have 14 pluses and 15 minuses, right? Or positives, negatives. She's like, this is just -1, right? Do I even have to make my 0 pairs? No, she knew there would be 14 0 pairs and then one more negative. That's what we call the additive inverse, making our life a whole lot easier, right? Because 14 plus a -14, and then the -1 is left over. So she actually broke the -15 apart. The additive identity, take like 10 seconds to understand this idea. You get back what you start with. Okay? Identity means you get back what you start with. So what do we add to get back what we start with? 0. Right? We add nothing. We don't add anything if we want to get back what we started with. What would we multiply by to get back what we started with? 1. So your identity for addition is 0. Your multiplication identity is 1. Okay? So play one more round of that, and then we got another game to play. One more round. We need some help. I can't think. You still don't have anything written on your paper. You have a header, but you don't have any math. Okay, there are only 3.
There's way more.
The groups of 3. This may not work very well, so we may need Callie to link up with Maeve. You'll understand why in just a moment, because these are to share. These game boards that I'm handing out are to share, so we'll give one to Maeve, but that'll probably be to share with Callie. Bless you. All right, put your positive negatives away. Put your plus minuses away. Does every pairing have one of these? All right, now, if I have learned anything in my 7 years of teaching, it's that if you don't understand the rules before we start, I don't even like calling them rules, but if you don't understand how a game works, it's really hard to play the game. And it gets frustrating for the people trying to play with you if you don't know how to play the game. So please take a moment, put your tiles away. I am just talking to get time to pass, to get us into the future. I'm occupying time that is otherwise wasted, because we should have robots to do these things, right? Pick up the tiles. All right. You can listen even while you're still putting things away. So this is how this game works. You should be with a pair, right? So you have that game board, but also I wanted to show you guys this. I'm not going to run off a ton of copies. So I gave each pair a game board to share, but that's it. That's all I'm going to give you. If you want to play beyond class, use the e-tool. Okay, so scoring. When all the boxes in the table have been filled in, calculate the sum of each row and the sum of each column. Anyone ever play Sudoku? Rows and columns? So remember, columns hold up the building, right? Columns go vertical. Every positive sum means 1 point for player 1. Every negative sum means a point for player 2. Player 1 is the person who goes first. How is that determined? A round of rock, paper, scissors. So whoever wins at rock, paper, scissors goes first. They are player 1 for that round. How this play works. You know what? Actually, I need a partner. Araya, you're pretty much normally on your task and doing what you're supposed to do. Come on up here. All right, Araya. Rock, paper, scissors. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, Araya goes first. So, I bet you have to reset this because it's a Monday. Move a tile into a box. And for you guys, you will be writing a number in a box. 7 she has chosen. I'm going to choose. So, Araya wins rows and columns when they come out positive. Right? My task is going to be figure out how to make the rows or columns come out negative. I'm going to go ahead and place that there. What? So, the columns, we each have kind of claimed 1 right now, but the row, has anyone claimed it? No, it's tied right now, right? It's a 0. So, if Araya wants to claim that row, she needs to do something in that row or just move on and look at columns.
Is diagonal or what?
5. I'll go ahead. So what's my choice right now? Ooh, do I want to make 0 though?
No,
I want to make it negative, so if I want to make it negative and make that, so now I've won that row, right? Because nothing else is going to change. So Araya goes now thinking about a column, probably, or a different row. So go ahead. Right now she's got 2 columns, I've got 2 columns. So start coming up with a strategy in your mind because you're about to play this. So I still have that column by 2. I'm actually going to go elsewhere probably. I'm going to go ahead and try to steal this column. Because now I've outweighed her positive by my negative. Now she's outweighed me. What do I need here to win this row? A negative 3, because I need to make that strong enough to overweight her 9, right? I can't just make 0. I need to get negative. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And you go back and forth. Now the thing about writing, you cannot repeat numbers. So I would cross numbers out after you use them, right? Up here, they're gone. So we're done. Play on your paper first. If people want to play around up here, you can, but I want you to develop some strategy. You have 3 rounds on your paper. There's 1 on the front that you can fill this in and then go to the back. Rock, paper, scissors to start. I know. Not my phone. But extensions, I know that. Yes. I go on shoot. I throw after. I do rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, so just decide and then play around. You won't need it for a while, but rule number 7 is something we didn't talk about. You have it on your paper. No, you're playing on 1 game board. I explained this, Toby. You weren't listening. I'm a professional repeater. how many rows, how many columns. Yeah, then you do the diagonal. I win. But if somebody already has one before you need to do the diagonal, you don't have to.
Wait, is there
Good volume.
what do you think?
Oh my goodness.
By the way, well, never mind.
This row is mine. It's time to wake up every day.
All right, does anyone think there's like a magic strategy?
Get diagonal.
What do you mean get diagonal, Nick?
Get the back. I think you should put them in the middle part.
Hey, we're bringing it back together because we got a couple more things to do, and I'd like to give you time to start your homework, which I think can happen. So Nick said get diagonal. What do you mean?
I think you should put them in the middle first, because then so then you can get diagonal just in case, and then you can also claim a couple.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on like strategy if you were to tell somebody like how you think you can win?
I kind of feel like if you don't want to put like a big number to like start off with in a row or a column, because the other person has the same numbers in you and they can just cancel you out.
So save your big numbers. Interesting. Did anyone find themselves thinking about what does it take to get to 0 and then just past that? Yeah, this idea of like making zeros. That's the thing that we're about to practice. So on your blue sheet for today, your 2, 2, 3. If you don't still have it out, please flip back to it. I'm trying to make your life easy, so I put this on the blue sheet. My job is to make your life easy. This is, what, 68? Something like that? 58. I used to live in a house that had an address of 58. That wasn't that interesting. That was just a coincidence. So, I am going to choose random cards to make sure we're all awake this morning and ask the question of how do we use a 0 here to figure out what we have left over. So, if I called on Micah for number 1, or number A, which, hey, that's me, I would say something like, well, with a negative 8 and a positive 2, we can make 2 zeros, 0 pairs, right, positive, negative tiles, and then I have 6 negatives left over, because our thought process here is if I had these things physically out on the desk, and I had 2 positives and 8 negatives, when I make 0 pairs, whatever's left is my answer, quote unquote, my sum, right? So this would turn into -6. So take a moment, think it through on your own, try to solve through all 8 of these, and then I will use random cards to get some feedback. So if you are confused and cannot do this, ask your partner or raise a hand so I can help you.
Can you put my card on the front?
Eric's card's on the front.
Eric, I'm Eric.
So we are finding these sums by thinking about the zeros.
Oh, we just find the answer?
Yeah.
Oh.
But we're thinking about zeros because that makes our life easier. So if there are no zeros to be made, then they just work together. So like in C, are there zeros to be made? No. Yeah, because there's positives and negatives. B, there's not. You are correct. You want to talk about that real quick? Like to the class.
Oh, I get it.
All right, so Mirabelle brought up, look, you don't have to talk about it, but I'm going to give you credit. They're frustrated back there because I said think about zeros. Side conversation. Toby Hamill, am I going to have to give you a different seat? In B, there's no 0 to think about. Right? Negative with more negatives. They can't do this. So, Mirabelle, what's this come out to be?
Oh,
-8. -8, absolutely. And that worked out because your card was on top. Olivia, what about C? Are there zeros to be made there? Yeah, there are actually. So this is why I'm asking to make sure we understand what we're doing. You probably got the answer, but just aren't thinking about the zeros like me. Do you know what the answer is here? Yeah, absolutely. So you made the zeros. You're just not thinking about it like I am, which is okay. I'm just trying to, teachers have to try to make you think a certain way sometimes. If we had these tiles, 2 positives, 4 negatives, we can make 2 zeros. And what we have left over is our answer. So in D, Molly, are there zeros to be made in D? No. What do we get in the end? Yeah, because we had like bad guy 7, another bad guy 7, negative 14. Maeve, wow, string of all girls, bro. Maeve, what about E? Are there zeros to be made there? You keep moving today. Where did Maeve end up?
Right there.
Oh, right in front of me. So you were back there last time. Yes? How many zeros? Well, I'm asking the wrong thing. So we make 3 zeros, and we end up with just 1. What's our answer? 1 what? Positive or negative? 1 negative is what we have left. Meredith is gone. Lydia, what about F? Did you do anything to start there before you thought about like putting things together? Or I don't know. How'd you solve that? You didn't yet. So for F, G, and H, take another couple seconds because I know you probably didn't get to them, but we were starting to kind of disperse into side conversations. Solve F, G, H if you have not done those yet. If you have, move on to the next question on your blue sheet. Those are a bit more difficult to work with. Those numbers are a bit tougher.
Yeah, negative. I don't know.
So guys, I will expect that you have things written on your blue sheet when you turn it in for homework, even though that's not part of your homework. That's the classwork, right? So your blue sheet should have all of those answers that we just went over. You should have all of that written out so you can reference back to it. Nick, can you talk about F in the Marvel, Avengers, or Mortal Kombat, or whatever sort of like good guy, bad guy way we can talk about?
Okay. So then, 4 is a really bad guy.
What?
Yeah, 4 is a big bad guy.
You got that backwards, boy.
No, 4's a bad guy.
Haha.
Oh, 4. Oh.
4.
Negative 4.
No, we're talking numbers here. Get Thor out of here. All right, 4 is a bad guy.
Yeah, 4.
Who else is a bad guy here?
Thanos.
2. Okay, quit with the character names. When we put the bad guy 4 and the bad guy 2 together, Nick, what do we get?
Negative 6.
Yeah, bad guy team of -6 taking on good guy team of 8. Now, Nick, who's going to win?
The good guy.
By how much? So, guys, what we're thinking about, bring it back to me, please. What we're thinking about here when we do that making zeros is at what point in that battle, right, the battle of good versus bad, at what point does somebody have more power or like more energy or whatever you want to say, more infinity stones? So if we look in G, we want to team up our good guys, bad guys first, or a little side fight happens. Who's ever played Mortal Kombat? If I talk about 2 characters who are exact opposites of each other, can anyone tell me who I'm talking about?
Ice guy and fire guy. Yeah.
Okay, there's an ice guy and a fire guy, but they're literally 2 robots, and I forget what their names are, but there's like a red one and a yellow one. Yeah, they're like the opposites of each other. So this little side fight happened. They walk in the room, and they're going to go team up with their buddies, but then they look across the room and they see their arch nemesis, their opposite, right? I don't know, it's across the room. So if Toby is +3 and I'm -3, and we're like, ah, and we run at each other, they become 0, right?
Yeah, they just both die.
I might lose my job, especially since I'm recording. So no, Toby and I cannot have an epic battle where we would both disappear.
Oh, like this cancels each other out.
Nice. All right, and in H, what happens there? They make 0. All right, hold up. Moving on. Last one we do like easy, quote unquote easy. If you had bad guy 200, good guy 14, who's gonna win? Yeah. Sorry, childhood Spider-Man, you are not strong enough yet. How much does a bad guy win by here? Hold on. Hold on. I'll take a volunteer. If somebody wants to talk about how their your brain thinks through this. Whose was that a hand or not? Savannah?
Well, you see negative 200 and you see that positive 14 and you're like, well, that positive 14 is a failure.
Okay.
They've never become a superhero, and that's why.
You tried though.
That's why Spider-Man got kicked out of the MCU.
Whoa.
They got a new contract.
Hey, respect that Savannah's talking.
It was 14, and yeah.
How do you figure out how much the bad guy wins by?
Yeah. 14 from 200.
So guys, what we're really doing here, even though the 14 is our positive, we're really subtracting 14 from 200. We get 186, and then we bring it over and say, oh yeah, it's negative because the bad guys won. So if you want to make your life easier, that's my job, think of it as just take the bigger number minus the smaller number, and then make it positive or negative based off what the problem told you. Does that make sense? Real quick, let's talk about some decimal values because they're a bit more difficult. So decimal or fraction, like B here. What would we first off, Morgan, what would we do in B before we even try to tackle it? Yeah, into what? Yeah, we convert so that we have common denominator, right? So negative 30 and 5/8 plus negative 60 and 2/8. Now, if they're adding with each other, can I work with these mixed numbers, or do I need to make them improper? We can actually work with these, because now that I've got common denominators, can I put 5/8 with 2/8? Yeah, and remember, they're teaming up. I know they're negative, but they're both negative. So we get 7/8, our total number, 30 and 60, we get 90, and then it's negative. Do that last. You should always be thinking about your positive, negative at the very end. Really should think about it the whole time, but check yourself at the very end. C, they're again working together. My only caution there, look at your decimal values. What's going to happen when we add those decimals? Bella? 63 plus 59, is that more or less than 100? Yeah, it's going to carry over, so be careful if you do that mentally or on paper. Be careful those decimal values carry over an extra 1. And then here, team up your good guys, bad guys first, and then let them go to battle. Right? Separate into sharks and jets or whatever. Separate first.
Sharks and jets.
Yeah. No, it's West Side Story. Maybe I'll show you guys the sharks versus jets scene sometime. Alright, that's all the time we got. I know that you would like to hang out here all day long, but I must give you up to other teachers.
No.
Yes, but it cannot make you late to your next class.